new here, you're most welcome to my channel. I am Shalane Faith and I mainly do faith-based content. Alright, as you already saw by the title, I will be sharing with you the lessons that I learned when I watched the movie The School of Good and Evil. Okay, so when I was actually watching this movie, I actually learned some scary lessons and an eye-opening lesson, so I decided, let me just share it with you, okay, so that it can help someone out there and enlighten someone out there. Okay, so without wasting much of your time, oh yes, and please do subscribe and join the family. Okay, please do subscribe and join the family. And yes, let's just get right into it. And before I can get right into it, if you haven't watched the movie, please, you can go and watch the movie first, because I won't really be explaining what is happening. I'll just be sharing what I have learned. Okay, so you can go and watch the movie first, and then you can come to this video, okay, later on. Alright, so let us get into it. So firstly, I'll be speaking of the characteristics that Raphael had. Okay, so Raphael had he was a deceiver, he was self-centered, he wanted evil to reign rather, and he just wanted to transform people. He wanted good people to become evil. Okay, and when I was actually, and he also had pride, and he wanted all the power to himself. Okay, and when I was actually looking at this, I actually realized that Raphael is actually a representative of how the devil is. The devil is a deceiver. He disguises himself, as someone who is good, and yet he's got a very bad plan that he has for our lives. He just wants to destroy us. Okay, so one thing, every time I would see what Raphael was doing, I would just imagine him as the devil in our lives. The devil comes to only deceive us. He deceives us into doing something that is evil, telling us, no, we're gonna receive all the power and all that. Remember when Raphael actually promised Sophia? Is it Sophia? Yes. When he promised Sophia that she's going to have all the power and all that. That is what the devil does. He tells us these sweet nothings so that we can give up on him, so that we can sell our souls to him. Okay, so that is the characteristics that Raphael had. And every time I look at Raphael, I think of the devil. I'm not saying that Raphael is the devil himself, but then the characteristics that were portrayed represent how the devil is in our life. So we really need to be careful, because the devil is just trying to destroy us. Okay, he is just trying to destroy us, and yet he uses the same things that we love the most, the things of this world, so that he can capture our minds, and fall into his trap. And that is what the devil does. And also, if you realized, okay, now we're talking about Sophie. If you realized, the more evil that she did, the more she became ugly. Like literally, she became more like a witch, And when I was just looking at this, I was just imagining, okay, so the more we sin, the more our souls become so bad, and you won't even recognize it. Right now, if they would say, let us see how our souls are, we wouldn't even recognize them, because they'll be so horrible, because sin has damaged our souls. Sin has destroyed our souls, and all that. So we need to be careful. So I actually remembered of the book by Shakespeare, which is The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's actually the same as that. The more evil Dorian Gray did, the more his portrait became more ugly and uglier, to the extent that when he finally saw his portrait, that's when he realized, no, his soul was, wow, it was just so ugly, to the extent that he couldn't even stand for himself, and then he destroys the portrait, of which was actually destroying his own soul, and that's how he died. So the more we do sin, the more we damage, or we become ugly, our souls become ugly. So guys, you need to be careful. We must try and not sin, okay? Because the more we sin, yes, we might not see it in the outward appearance, but then we do see it. No, we don't see it, but then it actually happens inwardly. And the more it is damaging our inward self, then one day it is going to be portrayed outward. Okay, so we really need to be careful of evil. Okay, remember at the end, almost at the end, they did mention that she was a very good girl and she was trying to be evil, but then she was not evil enough, so Raphael could not use her. Okay, so one thing I realized is that Raphael always uses the good people. Okay, it's not that he chose the evil ones and all that. He chose the good ones, and tried to convince them that they are actually evil, of which they are not. Of which they are just like the dean of the school of evil. She was actually a good person, but then Raphael tried to convince her that she's actually evil. That is what the devil does. He wants us to think that we are bad people, and yet we are made in the image of God. We're actually good people. So that's one thing you need to understand. Okay, so now that you've spoken of the characteristics of Rafal, Sophia, and the headmaster, no, not the headmaster, sorry, and the dean of the school of evil. Yes, we do have Agatha who shows us true love, but then we're going to get there, okay? So now I'll be talking about the characteristics that each school had, okay? And I do have notes here so that I will not forget anything, because I feel like each point is very important, okay? So firstly, we're gonna speak of the school of evil, okay? So the school of evil they were called as the nevers, okay? They never believed in eternity. They never believed in eternity, right? They were always negative and they were wicked, you know. And another thing about the school of evil is that the word that they knew was hurt, to the extent that when they were given that power on their finger, the dean of the school of evil told them that it's going to hurt, you know, which means that the school of evil was telling them, was installing fear in them, you know. There's always fear that is happening. There's no confidence in the school of evil. It is all fear, right? And another thing is they never won. If you listened carefully, they say that they never won in the past, like 500 years or something like that. Imagine, they never won. And also another thing is, actually, when I was actually looking at the people or the students who were in the school of evil, they were actually not that evil. They were not that evil. They were just transformed into being evil, and yet inwardly they are not evil. And one thing, before I can go to the school of good, one thing you need to understand is that it is also the same in this journey that we're in, this journey called life, you know. We are living in a controversy, you know, a controversy of good and evil. It is the same. It is the same as the movie in the school of good and evil, okay? Life is a school on its own. We are learning each and every day, but then there's also good and there's also evil, and we always need to choose the good side, okay? Because the evil side will always tell you about, it will always bring fear, it will always bring negativity, nothing that is positive, okay? Just like 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, it says, "For I do not give you the spirit of fear, but the spirit of love and self-control." So when God was saying that, he told us that he doesn't give us the spirit of fear, but then it's the devil, which is representing the school of evil. The school of evil was always instilling fear in them, and that is what the school of evil is representing, and that is what is actually happening in our lives. And then we've got the school of good. They were also called as the Evers. You know, they believed in eternity. Alright. Yes, they believed in eternity, and also one thing I actually realized is that they were not always good. They were not always good. They were self-centered people. Yes, it was called the school of good, but then they were self-centered people, of which that is not truly good. That is when Agatha comes in and tells us that no, this is not true goodness, or this is not true love, because we are all self-centered. Even the punishments that they were receiving, they were all self-centered, you know, and not self-centered, but then they were not good at all. They never represented that goodness of the school of good, you know. They never portrayed love, rather they were only talking about punishment and all that. And also they spoke positively, you know, just like the dean of the school of good, you know. She told them when they were receiving the power in their finger, she told them that no, it's not going to hurt, and as a result it didn't pain them, you know, because it is coming out of the good. And also they always won. And that shows us that good will always win. Even in this life, good will always win. Christ is going to come in. He will still win. Good is always win. We are already victorious through Christ Jesus. Alright? We are already victorious. That is what the difference between the school of evil and the school of good. Okay? Another thing that I learned is that even though the people who are in the school of good, they're also self-centered people. Apart from that one person, just like Agatha, you know, even if people are portrayed as good, some of them or most of them, they are self-centered. But then I would like to tell you that there are also other people, just like Agatha, that 1% who are truly good. Okay, so we ought to be just like Agatha, who was truly good and who always wanted to do good and showed love to other people and showed empathy unto other people. We shouldn't be self-centered as people. One thing I also realized is that when the prince of the school of good was fighting with one of the guys, the giants rather, in the school of evil, I feel like they took that story from the story of David and Goliath, because the guy from the evil side was giant and he was all big, and the prince was small, of which that portrayed as David and Goliath. Even though it was a giant, the prince still won. This prince still won, which just shows us that good will always win. Good will always win. So rather be on the good side, And another thing that they took from the story of David and Goliath is that, it was the same sword that the giant was using that cut off his arm, which also happened in the story of David and Goliath. David used the same sword that Goliath used and cut his throat off. Okay, so with that, those are the lessons that I've learned. I know that there are more, and if I think of more of any lessons, I will post them down because I would like to share those with you. Okay, but for now, this is it. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to my channel. Please do subscribe to my channel, and